full-page ad that we collected money for, $600 and some at that time, which was a lot of money in 1979, and telling the people of the city of Clinton that the union was a good thing. The union was you know, not out to ruin the company or the city or whatever, that we were trying to just, you know, make a point, and that construction union workers were here, those unions, and we had fire people or unions, and police people or unions, and you know, that kind of information. And Montgomery Ward also said, because it was coming on, it was August and coming on to September in school, anybody that was affected by the union strike at Clinton Corn could buy stuff on credit and pay it back when they went back to work, or if they didn't, never. It was forgiven. And about 2 days after Montgomery Ward said that, Clinton Corn came out with another full-page letter to counter us and to counter Montgomery Ward, saying this was wrong and this and that and everything and all the bad things that we're doing. And about 2 weeks later, Montgomery Ward closed their doors and folded up business. And now they had, I don't know how many people, but a lot of people that worked there. It was a three-floor department store, and all those people were gone. The business was gone, and that affected an awful lot of people in this town to put people out of work. And there were a lot of other companies and businesses, especially small businesses, that people would go to because they had money and they would frequent, you know, restaurants and stuff like that. And during and after the strike, they couldn't collect unemployment because they had been on strike. So they were, you know, totally broke. And a lot of them found jobs out of town where they could, you know, where people would be willing to take them in, you know, businesses and companies that would be willing to take them in as workers. Because there were a couple, I will say there were a couple, but just about everybody, 99.5% of the people that worked at Clinton Corn were good workers, you know, and gave if they had you, they'd stay overtime, you'd do whatever, you know. Myself, I tried my best to do as good a job as I could. My brother, it was a hard time. Kind of like a tale of two cities. A good time and a bad time, but it was devastating to this community. Like I said, I never talked to my mother for 3 years because of my brother-in-law. That's hard. But we got over it. Somehow we did. Sorry. I'm an emotional person, and that was a very emotional time. Because it broke up families. It was real chaotic around here for a long time. Like I said, I never talked to my mother for 3 years after that. The only reason I did talk to her was because she called me. I don't know. I'm a Serbian. I'm an American, don't get me wrong. And I'm an American Army veteran. But my background, my nationality is Serbian. And Serbians are very stubborn and belligerent, and if you ask my wife, she will say I epitomize the stubbornness of the Serbians. 3 years ago, we got into an argument over our fireplace in our family room in the downstairs, and she was trying to tell me something, and I didn't want to listen. I said, okay, that's fine. I shut everything down. That's the last time. And there's never been a fire in that fireplace since. I just won't do it. That's my stubbornness. I don't apologize for it. Believe me, I don't. That's just the way I am. That's the way I was born. But that's the way I am as far as being union and why I helped the people from Local 6 as much as I did, because I'm stubborn about labor and unions, and if that makes me a bad person, so be it, but that's the way I am.
You talked a little bit about how the dynamic within your family was affected by the strike with your brother and your brother-in-law. But you said it was pretty common that families were affected?
Yes, it was. There were a lot of divorces, because most of the people that worked at Clinton Corn, just throwing out a guesstimate, I'd say 99% of them that worked in the plant were men. Very few women, very few. Because in '79 there wasn't that dynamic of having women work in a factory or that kind of an environment. And so most of these men that went on strike, and their wives would pressure them to go to work or do that. Well, I'm on strike, and we're, this and that. And a lot of families were broken up because of that. And there were a lot of divorces because of that, because the men were adamant about supporting the union, and the wives were adamant about getting their men to work, to support their family. And it was a very, like I said before, a very chaotic time. And I couldn't tell you, I couldn't ever put a number to it, but I know there were an awful lot of people that were divorced over that. In fact, my brother was divorced because of it. But it was, I don't know what words I want to say, but it was just a devastating time for the families and for this community that for whatever reason, it shouldn't have happened, but it did, and because it did, it was devastating. So.
Is there anything we haven't asked you that you think we need to know?
I can't think of anything. And I've tried to give you the best answers, the most honest answers I can give you. I don't know what else to say, but Clinton Corn was prepared for the strike of '79. And like I told you, they had truckloads of men coming up from the south to go to work, which they weren't working, but they were there. They were bullies, and they had pickaxe handles and baseball bats. And the highway patrol, I was going to work, I was working in Muscatine at the time before I went to Kemplex, and they had highway patrol cars lined up on the south side of Highway 30 for half a mile. They had these police cars, highway patrol cars, waiting for somebody to come in and start a problem. They heard that we were gonna, or that the union was gonna go in and cause some trouble or something. They had all these highway patrol cars. They aren't supposed to be involved in labor disputes, but they were there, lined up. I saw them, and I'm not making this up. I saw them, and I thought, wow, how can you get that much, in the police force? They arrested people for doing absolutely nothing and arrested them for terrorism just because they were part of the union. And how can they do that? I was just dumbfounded that they did it and they got away with doing it, that the law enforcement was on the side of Clinton corn instead of trying to be neutral, what they're supposed to be. And it just dumbfounded me that they took the side of the company instead of being neutral, or but they did. They wielded a heavy hand, and they arrested, I don't know, 7 or 8 people from the union and charged them all with terrorism. And they were all found guilty. Later, they were given a reprieve. They were I don't know what the word is. They were exonerated and given just time and served or whatever, and sent on their way. But they weren't terrorists. They were just people trying to, do what they thought was right to help the union. And anyway, they were arrested. So police are supposed to be, unless they're being shot at, they're supposed to be neutral, I think, aren't they? But they definitely weren't at that time. They were very adamant about helping Clinton corn. And like I said, they were half a mile long. Highway patrol cars lining up on the south side of 30 out what they used to call Keister's Hill, the hill that goes up over where the Clinton school buses are now. They were lined up there, and they were ready, to go. They were going to stop anything that, well, nothing ever happened, but they were ready to go. So that, I think, I don't think that was fair. A lot of things that happened weren't fair, as far as who took what side. Like I said, 2 weeks after Montgomery Ward put out their thing about helping the union people, they were shut down and closed up, and all their people were lost their jobs. And because somebody somewhere sympathized with the company, and the company has enough influence, being part of Standard Brands at that time, they had enough influence that they could make things happen. And fair enough, it happened, and that's all I can say. I don't have a Harry Potter thing that I can dip in and look into the past and see why or this or that, but it did happen.
Bob, what do you think the feeling is about unions today in Clinton, and do you think it was shifted because of this strike, or if anything else has changed?
We're almost non-existent. At one time there were 4 United Association plumbing and pipe fitter unions in the city of Clinton. Now there isn't any. We were in Davenport, now we're in Rock Island. There used to be 3 electrical unions. Now there isn't any. They're all gone. The only thing that keeps unions together or alive is Clinton Labor Congress, and being the secretary, well, past president, but being the secretary, I had to fill out forms, and one of the forms from the AFL-CIO says, do you have a retirees group, and if so, what is their name? And I have always been tempted to say, yes, we have a retirees group, and it's called Clinton Labor Congress, because we're all old guys. One guy that's active, 2 guys that are active that are part of it. I mean, we get people out to help in parades, we get people out that are help at our Labor Day picnic, but as far as being members or as far as being part of the organization, they're non-existent. It's just us old guys, we old guys I should say, that are doing everything, that are keeping this environment going. And we had a school superintendent here, oh, I can't remember his name now. He went to Minnesota. He was fired from South Des Moines, And of course, Clinton hires everybody that's a loser. Banky was fired from his job as police chief in Washington, Iowa, and we hired him and welcomed him with open arms until he got disabled and couldn't work anymore. But we hire all these, anyway, Clinton does. They hired this guy, school superintendent, and for the life of me, I can't remember his name. I can see his face. I know him as, but anyway, he quit to keep from being fired from Clinton and went up to Minnesota someplace. But and my wife Wendy was on the school board at that time, and he made a statement. He said, "This town, this city of Clinton, would be a whole lot better off if it wasn't, in fact, of labor and Clinton Labor Congress." So evidently we meant something to him, because he wouldn't have made a statement like that if we did mean something to him, you know.
Why do you think it means so little to some of the young people in the area?
Young people don't want to get involved, period. That's why. I have no idea. Because when I came home from the Army, I joined AMVETS, I joined American Legion. I'm a life member of DAV. 2 years after, I was a commander of AMVETS Post 28 here in Clinton. I've been active in the Union all my life. I've been active in the Democrats all of my life. I give blood. For the last 11 years, I've been driving a van to Iowa City, taking veterans out there to the VA hospital. I got a Presidential Lifetime Achievement Award last April, which I'm very proud of, but I don't brag about. But I do that stuff. And Wendy does stuff. She's a vice president of Soaring Eagles. She's vice president of Wantani, the women's organization. She's active in Democrats, and she goes along with me at labor functions. But we both are active. But you can't find, I don't care who, you can't get kids to be active anymore, or younger people. My oldest daughter is active in Girl Scouts with her daughter, and that's it. My son lives in Edwardsville, Illinois. He is involved with this, it's called the Wilding Theater. He helped renovate it. He promoted, he's a graphic designer and has a master's degree in graphic design, fine arts, and is a current St. Louis Museum of Art's graphic designer. But he designs all these posters, and they bring in people and they show old. In fact, we went to the first one. It was the monster of the Black Lagoon, and they hit the lady. She was the only woman in the movie, and they brought her there to give a talk. They showed the movie, and then she talked and answered questions for a while, and it was her 87th birthday, and which was kind of neat, you know. And she looked just as good as she was in the movie. I mean, she was a beautiful lady, still is. And anyway, he's involved with that, and his wife is a professor at the University of Southern Illinois in Edwardsville, and she's involved a lot of children's things in Edwardsville and stuff. And my middle daughter, my middle child, is involved and is a volunteer at the Humane Society in Cedar Rapids, and is very active in that. In fact, has adopted 2 of their dogs. But otherwise, you can't find younger people for whatever, they don't want to get involved. And it's a shame, because they should, because it's their lives that are on the line. They have to make this a better country to better themselves and their kids. I mean, I've tried. I'm still working, trying to do it, but I don't know why they don't do it. I mean, they get involved in themselves, or too egotistical, or something. I don't know what the deal is. You have to help your neighbor.